Welcome to Cigar Creed. I'm JJ. Today, I'm very excited. So now that the clocks have been turned, this tells me that it is time for planting some tobacco seeds. So, with that, normally, well, at least in Cuba anyway. I don't know about Nicaragua and all that. I would assume, I don't like to assume, but I would assume that they would be roughly around the same time. So their planting season starts in September, roughly September 15th, halfway through the month. And then generally goes till around February, March. So basically when they're ending is when my season or our season begins. So with that, I'm very excited. So I don't know if any of you have seen how it's done, or, some of the newcomers, guys and girls that are just taking up the hobby and don't really know a whole lot and want to show a little bit of interest as to where it starts and where it ends. So that's what we're going to do this season. Unfortunately, last year I did show the crops that I had going, the plants that I had going, and there was about 7 of them. I have not finished off what I had done in terms of fermenting them. I did do color cure on the leaves from last year. I have not done any fermentation. I just hadn't, because of what has happened to me. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to build my fermentation chamber. However, I will be getting started on that not too far down the road. And while we're got the seeds going, we're also going to be doing some fermentation. Anyway, so with that, again, we're going to start right from the beginning. A word of caution for anybody who is thinking of doing this and wants to do it. This is something that demands attention, okay? I understand it's not on a large scale. I understand we're not growing farmer fields of this stuff. But the practices do not, and the principles still apply. They do not change, whether it's one plant or thousands of them, tens of thousands. It does not change. I'm not kidding. Once you start it, you have to check up on it. Make sure it's not getting too dry. Make sure it's not getting too wet. Make sure, as the plants grow, are they being protected? When they reach a certain amount of height, somewhere 6 to 8 inches, you got to be cautious. You have to slowly introduce them to the weather and to the wind and to, they're very delicate. There's, in the beginning, that stage, from seed to when you finally get them in the ground is a very delicate stage at that point. So even from there and beyond, you're battling bugs, you're battling suckers, conditions. Last year I had to prop them up with stakes. So, they do demand constant attention. You got to make sure you're not overwatering them. You want to make sure that they're going to be exposed to a large amount of sunlight. But yeah, aside from that, I enjoy it actually. I find it quite relaxing. I find it fun. It's you take that thing that starts off so small, and then it grows into a plant that 7 feet tall, 8 feet tall, even 6 feet on average. So with that, we're going to get started. Okay, so what we're looking at here are the seed pods that I saved and gathered from last season. Out of the 7 plants, I let 2 of them flower, and then I wrapped them up. If you want to see that, go back to the plant episodes, the Criollo 98, and those are the seeds that I used. I call it AKA my Canadian harvest. And what I've been looking for is gathering, you know, some of the bigger ones, right? See the comparison between, you know, two smaller ones and two larger ones. I would like to gather up the big ones. So just as they've bloomed, like here's the petals from them. Okay, they are dried up. They fell off, some of them. And basically you pull the flowers off, or the whole top, and you let it dry. These pods are what you get. And just by opening them up, all those little tiny specks of sand are seeds. Every single one of them. Just to give you an idea of how small they are. Okay, now I got this guy here, little screen, little dish, and this is how I just separate everything. So I just usually hold it over top, let everything go in there, just to kind of sift it out. Okay. So again, I just take my pod and I just do this over top of it. And that's it. Gather the large ones, just break them open, they're dry. And I just kind of empty it out like that. Take my finger, put it around, just to separate it. And what's left, as you can see, are tiny little seeds, thousands of them. Each pod holds thousands of seeds, up to, at least. And this is only out of 2 out of 7 plants, so to give you an idea of how many I've already collected, and that's what, all those seeds out of about 3 or 4 pods, okay? All those guys are seeds. This is how many I've already accumulated, okay? Just to give you an idea of how many I've already broken open and gathered. So, you know, it is time consuming at times, and it can be a little tedious depending on what you're doing. Do I need all these? No, I don't. Okay? It takes very little to grow. Okay? One thing too you must be aware of is when you start doing this and start getting into it, you have to go into it with the expectation that some of the plants are just going to be thrown out and discarded. Okay? What you're trying to do is gain the biggest and strongest plants that's going to bring you the best yield. And, you know, it's hard to tell from seeds. So what you end up doing is planting more than what you need. After that, ooh, and we are just going to drop it in there. So there you go. There's the outside of a pod removed, and those are the seeds gathered in it. So there we go. We have all the seeds that we need Yeah, there's some bits and pieces of leaf and all that in there. Not a big deal. With the way you plant these and everything, you'll see very soon how really it doesn't matter. There we go. Full bottle, ready for the season. We have our seeds. You know, we want to get it planted. How do we do that? Well, what I do, and you know, I just recycle containers, okay? You don't have to go out and buy anything fancy and buy these planter trays. I do have planter trays. They're reusable. I already have them filled up. We plant, you know, and grow other things like flowers and tomato plants and vegetables anyway. So they are being used. I do, and I already have started with some seeds about a week and a half ago, and I will show you those just to see how the progression is. But I forgot to film them. So that's why I'm doing this again, which is no big deal, because I'm going to be looking and have other spots that I'm going to be planting these as well. One thing you need to do is check out what you're allowed for how many plants for personal, not commercial, but for personal use. So depending on jurisdiction, etc., province, state, whatever, county, town, whatever you're allowed is what you are allowed. No more, no less. But you know, that was easy enough to look up. I just searched the internet. So what I've done is I've recycled some yogurt containers, and I have used a soldering iron, heated it up, just used it, poked a couple drain holes in there for water absorption and drainage, etc. You want to water these from the tray so that they are allowed to draw the water up. You don't want to water them on top, and you'll see in a minute why. Our containers are all filled up. We want to make sure that they are filled up to the top, okay? When we water them and the water is absorbed, the soil will sink a little bit. Now, what I have in here, I'm sure people are asking, this is Miracle Grow. Okay, it's just a potting mixture. It has, it's supposed to be able to maintain water or keep watering your plants for up to 6 months in the soil. So they won't be in there that long anyway. But for starter, it's what I use. It's what I find, you know, works just fine, you know. It does have some large twigs and chunks in it. You just got to sift through it a bit. You don't need to pat it down. Do not pat it down. You don't necessarily have to water it either on top. That's why we have the trays. We're going to water it, you know, from the tray so it, like I said, it draws the water up. What you want to do, the reason for that too, is you want to be able to promote that root growth. You want to be able to make that root, that one tap root, go all the way down and search for that water, okay? That way it creates a good, strong, healthy root system. If you want, fine, you can just give it a spritz on top. You don't need to soak it, okay? Just like that. Now, how we do the seeds is, I'm just gonna mix that up a bit. Anyway, don't need a whole lot. And we're just gonna take a bunch like that, nice little tiny pile. Like I said, you need very little. And all you do is you just take your finger. You could even wet it if you want, but I just do that, get a few on there, and I go sprinkle, sprinkle. Basically, you want to achieve you know, and you could feel them on your hands, on your fingers too. You just want to get, 5, 8, maybe 10. You really don't need that many, but like I said, when you start this, you're in it for the long haul, and you cannot be discouraged if some of the plants don't work out. You will be sifting through them as well as they're growing. You want to get rid of any of the weaker ones, right? Because we want to maintain good, healthy plants. And where I'm sprinkling these, I don't know how well you can see it. I'm sprinkling them center of the plastic containers, okay? And that's it. We still have some left over, okay? And, I probably went overboard a little bit. That's fine. Some of them may grow, some of them may not. So this way, like I said, I get a better yield and percentage of what type of volume I can sift through, find the better plants. And I will save these. And this year with these guys, I will save them again. Because every year, you want to get that better harvest. You want to get those bigger, better, stronger plants. But that's about it. That's all it takes. And now these little guys are going to grow. If you want, again, give them a light spritz on top. Nothing crazy. Okay, you don't want to bury them at all. They want to sit on the surface. They're going to require light. Eventually. Right now, what you can do is you can take some foil, go over top of them. You don't want to lay it right on top, but you want to just, kind of tent it a bit, put it in a warm location, and check on it, okay? Just going to put a little bit of water on the bottom, okay? Have these guys absorb some. Take that, done, okay? Now, I got a little greenhouse, little plastic, small little greenhouse thing that I put these in. And I have a, LED grow light. That's how I am doing it now. When I first started doing these, I just put the foil over top and I put them next in the room where my furnace is. Didn't have to sit it on top, but it was warm enough in there that they maintained a certain temperature, that they weren't getting too cold or etc. So you just want them to promote good growth, that's all. Okay, obviously you're not going to keep them outside at this point where it's, still freezing out for me anyway. But, yeah, you want to keep them covered for a couple weeks and you'll start to see little sprouts come up. Okay, and as they come up, then after, check on them. You probably want to water them or check the water moisture content in the soil every 2 to 3 days. Okay, you don't want the soil to be saturated and completely soaked, but you want to make sure you have enough moisture on there that any evaporation given off is going to kind of, those seeds are going to absorb that, So that's all it takes. And then after those couple weeks where you get the little sprouts coming up, uncover it and put it back. Put it in a lighted area under a grow light. Put it in a window, something that's going to get some sunshine. That's all plants need that, right? It helps with their food. So, and to start off, that's all we do. A lot of it is trial and error, and you really don't appreciate it. You think you appreciate it now, but when you start doing something like this, you really get appreciation for the companies and the farmers that work the fields do the plants, maintain them, you know, cure them, ferment them, roll them. It is quite the process, and it's a very long process, and it's amazing what they can produce throughout that process and how they do it on such a large scale. You know, we're only doing a few plants here. The fact that they can do crops and crops and crops every year, constantly maintain them, you know, you do, like I said, you do pick up a more sense of gratitude for the work that is accomplished. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the ones that I had already done that had been sitting about a week and a half, and show you, you know, how far they've come. So we'll see in a minute. Okay, so in this tray, pay no attention to these colored toothpicks. Okay, they're flowers that were growing with my children. They wanted to grow their own, so I said, okay, fine. So I set aside half the tray for that. So some of them are starting to sprout up. Anyway, these are not the seeds. These guys are. Now, I don't know how well you can see it, but we have one right here. We have 3 here. There's another one, and another one. There's the little guy just coming up here. There's 2 of them right here and right there. So they are coming, okay? As you can see, it's not too wet on top. You want to make sure that it maintains a certain amount of moisture, but it's not going to be saturated, okay? About 18 coming up so far. Now you see here how they're all bunched. When we sprinkle the seeds on top, okay, like I said, we're going to do, you know, somewhere 8, 12 seeds per pod. Afterwards, see how close they're getting. But you see how some of them, I don't know how well you can get it, but so you see how big the stalks are? They're just little guys, okay? And as they grow and more of them, more seeds start to come up, we start sifting through. Some will start to bend over. Those are the ones, you know, and fall over that can't stand up on their own strength, or something has happened, or they just got bumped and fell over. Well, those we remove. Okay, and you could also, when they get to a certain size, you could also transplant them. So you can move them out of there and put them into another pod and get them growing that way too. So as they come up, we want to go through them and pull the best, and keep the best ones and pull out the weakest. Just giving us a better yield, that's all. Okay. Good, good, good. Now that one's got a stick in it. A couple seeds stuck to it. Thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to give you guys the lowdown. And I know there's other videos out there or whatever, but we're going to get a crop this year, and going to have fun doing it. So, thanks for tuning in. JJ Cigar Creed. Don't forget to click that like button, subscribe, join the Creed. Any questions, throw them in the comments, and or email me, jjonthecc@gmail.com, and we'll get them answered. Talk to you soon. Thanks.